Hey guys, it's Blair Milan and welcome to Itiswhatitisja, partnered with Instinct Media Productions. And this episode is sponsored by Pure Water, IrieBeanz Coffee, Karmen's Kollection, and Tami Boodie. Today I have with me Mara Harding, Wood Boss, and Zachary Harding, husband and father. Yeah, and today we will be discussing men before and after marriage. What can you tell me about, your experience being married? How long have you guys been married? And do you think it was any different before and how it is now? You want to go first? Okay, Ma.
Don't start.
No, go ahead.
You can start.
Okay.
So we've been married going on 28 years now, last year. And we've been together from we've known each other from we're like 13, 14 years old. Went at Morelands camp. She was very interested in me. I was very interested in her.
Okay.
And she keeps reminding me how I was running her down. And she was not paying me any mind at all.
Wow.
Which is true. But I'm a persistent guy.
Okay.
And that's had a strategic plan and waited up one time.
Right.
But we started dating when we were 20 and then got married at 21.
Nice.
So it's been an excellent journey so far.
Okay, good to hear that. All right, so Mara, is when you got married at 21, did you have something in your mind as to how the marriage would have gone versus now? Is there any differences that you're seeing?
Well, for sure, growing up, I said I was never getting married.
Well,
yeah. I had parents that always said, "I'm sorry for the man that you marry." So I figured, best I just don't get married.
right.
But God had other plans, and truthfully, I didn't go in with any expectations because marriage was not really something that was in my head, in my thoughts at all. Big time tomboy. He ended up being my football coach when I returned from school. I was away in Canada, and that's kind of how we ended up dating.
Right.
And then it just really moved very quickly after that. Like, I was pregnant within months.
Wow.
And then got married. We got married in April, and I was 5 months pregnant. Okay. So we didn't really have an opportunity for
the
much.
Honeymoon.
Yeah, none of that. It was like we just dove straight into the deep end.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then, what would what kind of advice would you give people who are, started in a similar situation where, same thing, they didn't want to get married and then they decided to get married and, just a scenario just like yours, what if they're struggling then to even get to this point of 28 years, what kind of advice would you give them? What do you think has been what has caused your longevity then in your relationship?
I think for sure it's to give each other enough room to grow on your own as individuals, because we have spent 3 decades together, 20s, 30s, and 40s. We're both 50 this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I think it's just, one, sharing a lot of commonalities, but 2, it's giving each other enough space to grow as individuals and find your own way, because a lot of times you go into marriage and you want to control the other person, you want them to fit into your narrative, and it just doesn't work that way. Yeah.
That happens to a lot of people, I find.
Yeah.
So what's your
Have no expectations. Expectations set a platform for disappointment.
For sure.
And additionally, make your own moves. So when we're getting married, I sort of looked at generations before us. I was just trying to figure out, what makes a good marriage, what makes a good relationship. How come Uncle Tom and Auntie Mary, they broke up? I wonder what went wrong.
Right.
And then how come these two are together for a long time? And my parents are still married today. So I looked at it and I said, something, everybody has their own particular situation and scenario.
Right.
I think the mistake that people make is that they go in with a set of rules.
Right.
But these are the rules. This is what people say you need to do when you're married.
Right.
You know, the Bible
Right.
says this,
Right.
my parent says this, or my friend says this.
Right.
But you can end up taking advice from a lot of people who they themselves may not have had the experience.
Right.
So, you know, they said don't take advice from people who haven't done it or been or walked in your
Right.
shoes. So no rules, you can make them up as you go along to what suits you as a couple.
Right.
And this, you know, elimination of like, this is my expectation of what's supposed to happen leads to allowing and acceptance.
Right.
So two individual people, even though we might go and priest might bless and say, you know, who can't bring together the that's cool, but you're still always an individual person.
Right.
So each person has to respect the individuality of the other and just accept them for who they are.
Right.
Instead of, as Tamara said, those try to like change people because you want them to fit a particular role.
Yeah, I think that has been, I think, a big thing, especially in my generation, where a lot of women try to control, you know, their partners, and find that obviously that's why, you know, because you can't. I always say you can't change a man. A man is going to be a man, so he has to want to change on his own and want to, you know, be with you or whatever it is. So, yeah.
And it goes both ways.
Yeah, it does. It
because
does.
a lot of men
Try to
want to control their woman.
Yes, that's
and they say, you know, this is how you need to act.
or this is what you need to dress. This is what you right.
Exactly.
These are the friends you need to have.
Exactly.
You know.
And I would say men oftentimes end up being more controlling, not realizing that women are free spirits. They're going to have ideas, they're going to have thoughts, and most importantly, they're going to evolve over time.
Exactly.
So the person that you married at 21 is not the same
so
person
different.
that's at 70.
Yeah.
If you can't make adjustments as you go along, then you're still trying to fulfill that expectation that you had at one particular moment, and that presents challenges.
Right. So do you guys believe in continuously dating in your marriage? Because I believe in that. I feel this way, that once you know, some people, they're dating before and then they get married and then everything just changes, everything stops. And, you know, I always feel like you should continue to date your person and not forget that, okay, yes, I'm marrying you. It's not over. You still have to, you know, make each other feel good. You still have to fall in love with the person over and over again, or eventually it's just you're going to be over it. You know?
100%.
Yeah.
You have to. And it's something that we talk about because we both have careers and we get very focused and wrapped up into that, and then we forget that we're still together.
Right.
You know, so it's like we have to carve out the time to go on dates, go to dinners, just even go for a walk.
Right.
You know, so it's extremely important. And because we had kids very young, right off the bat, we didn't really get that chance at the beginning. So it was just kids, money, how are we going to pay the bills? You know, we had to be just on it all the time. And so when our kids left, we've been empty nesters now for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because both of our kids went away to school and then they both now live in Canada.
Okay.
So that kind of opened up the door to be like, we kind of did it in the reverse.
Right.
We started dating after, and not before.
Right.
So maybe that's just was a recipe for us, you know, for it to work. And a lot of other couples struggle when their kids leave, you know, because now they only have each other.
Right.
And they're like, hold on a second. Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know, you know. So it was the opposite for us. We finally got a chance to just be with each other.
Right.
So that was good, and that's when I launched my career into the wood business. You know, it gave me the opportunity and the space to evolve even more. So that was really good and important for us in our relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's good. So do you believe in obviously supporting each other in your career moves and career goals? Because that's also very important, because you find that there are those issues where, you know, you could have stepped out and said, okay, this is what you want to do now, and Zachary was not like, oh,
Easily.
that move.
Easily.
And said, no, I don't want you to do that now. Like, why are you doing that at this point in your life? Like, you know, so.
But that breeds resentment,
Right.
anger, disappointment.
Right.
Resentment is a big one.
Yeah.
You know, it fosters negative emotions that cannot be good in a relationship.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and it will eventually peter out if that's the case.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of anger.
Yeah. And it's good that you guys have that communication, because I always believe communication is key, very important, and it's obvious that it's very evident here that, you know, you're able to, you know, step out and do your career. You supported Zachary while Zachary was, you know, in his corporate career as well. And even though you're DJing.
Well, when I met him, he was DJing.
Oh, right. But you're still, you know, so.
And then he took a long gap.
Right.
So it's good to see him back doing what he loves.
Really loves.
Yeah, what he really loves, for sure.
So, you know, that's good that you know, you're supporting each other, and you know, because a lot of couples don't have that.
Yeah.
And even starting out, before you even get to the marriage part, if you find that you're doing something, like even, for example, me, you know, doing this now, not a lot of people can understand that, okay, I have a 9 to 5, but I'm also doing my podcast, and a lot of people can't.
They can't
understand, like, okay, I'm trying to get my own. I'm not trying to, you know, depend on anybody.
For sure.
They can't see how they can fit into that square. And even when you try to do that, you're like, listen, I have no time for that.
A lot of times what ends up happening is that your partner's lack of enthusiasm or lack of support is really their own fear.
Yes.
And what they're doing is they're projecting their fear onto you and their own insecurities. So you want to step out and do your podcast, and your significant other has an issue with it. It's really because they're afraid that you're going to fall on your face, that you're going to fail at it, you're going to embarrass yourself, and so they project all of that onto you. So you have to have somebody who believes that you believe in yourself, right? Because it really starts from you believing that you can do this, and then they have to tie into that belief to be able to give you the support that you need. Right? So it's not easy for a lot of people to do that, truly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sometimes, as you said, it starts with self. So you come as two separate individuals, but you come together as one. So if you're not whole by yourself, I don't believe you can be whole with anybody.
Absolutely.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
And then coming from completely different backgrounds. So my upbringing was polar opposite to his upbringing.
Okay.
My parents separated from I was 10. I really lived with my dad, and my dad was a pilot for Air Jamaica. So every time he flew, my mom would come into the house. He came from a stable environment where his parents are still married to this day. My dad was very loud and rambunctious and rallied and sailed and was very adventurous. And, you know, my brother played football. He was at every football match. His parents were very more political, so his dad, you know, was very involved in the government. So it was always about cocktail parties, and there was no bad word cursing, no raising of any voices. So it was very challenging.
Right. To step into
to come together as for two different worlds to come together. It's still challenging after 28 years. Let's not even like pretty it up, right?
Challenging for you?
Exceptionally challenging. And like, I'll give you an example. I was very triggered coming here today because I'm an on-time individual. And I like to be on time, and I like to be punctual, and I know what I have to do to be on time. And he has a different way of living, and you think after 28 years there'll be some level of understanding. Still improving on that point, right? So it's just it's important for sure to understand that the two backgrounds can be very different, but you can still come together and coexist, but you have to have an understanding of why it is that I communicate this way and you communicate this way, right? Yeah.
So, yeah, that could.
No, Tamara made a good point the other day. in terms of the distinction between communication and comprehension. Right?
Yeah.
So you may think that you're communicating because you're talking. I talk a lot. I'm a talker.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean that the message is being comprehended or
Or
received.
received.
So that requires now continuous fine-tuning of your messaging.
Right.
Understanding the other person. When is a good time to have the conversation? When is a bad time to have the conversation? I remember 2004 or 5, we used to, get into arguments from time to time. And a friend of mine said, listen, it might be Tamara's motorcycle. I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
What?
I've never heard such rubbish in my life.
Right.
Like a cop-out excuse.
Right.
I'm not buying it at all. That's not acceptable. And for Christmas, they bought me a period calendar.
Stop.
Swear to God, true story.
This is before social media apps, so everything was
right.
still.
Okay, right.
Now we have apps for that.
I know we have apps for that, right?
Yeah, this is before that time.
Right.
Very old.
Yeah.
So the calendar had a range of faces with expressions, and you're supposed to go through the days and put a sticker with each expression on the calendar. I'm like, I'm not going to do this rubbish anyway. I did it, and what I recognized was that by month 3, the pattern was identical.
Okay.
That period calendar probably saved that marriage.
Really?
Yeah, because up until then, I didn't understand.
Okay.
So I was just like, why is it that today, I'm the worst person in the world, I can't get it right. And tomorrow, I'm like the best person ever.
Right.
That inconsistency is weird for me.
Right.
But as Tamara always said, the men are from Mars, women are from women.
I agree with that.
So you can't treat each other as you would necessarily treat or understand yourself.
Right.
Right. So that was a big difference, just knowing that people are different,
Yeah.
and there has to be some more of acceptance.
Right. And understanding, as you said, understanding, people, and because not, as you said, everyone is gonna communicate differently. Even with your friends, your parents, everyone communicates differently. How you communicate with your father, it's different how you communicate with your mother. They receive the information differently. Even how you communicate with your kids, you have 2 kids, they communicate different.
Very much so.
So it's just communication in general. People have to have an understanding of how to just, send the information, receive the information, and not everything that someone says to you either is necessarily an attack. And sometimes it's not how you say it. It's not what you say, but how you say it.
Definitely.
So your friend could have even said to you that in a different way, but you were like, no, there's no way.
Listen, there are plenty times I say something over and over and over, and then some friend comes in, says the exact same thing, and he's like, yeah, something, you're right, and I'm over in the corner like this, really?
Like I just said that.
I only just said, no, I've been saying that for like 5 years, and now you're gonna
say, yeah.
The message just can't come from me.
Right.
Truly. Yeah, so.
Sometimes that's just how it is.
Definitely is.
So I think perspective has a lot to do with it.
Right.
I had a healthcare a couple of years ago, and in that scenario, I realized that we're going to die someday. I never really thought about it like that
Right,
before.
until
Just running
then.
through life and trying to solve problems.
Right.
Once that happened, I started to look at things differently, because I'm now looking at, I have a limited amount of time left, whenever that may be.
Right.
We've had friends that have passed away in the last couple of years.
Right.
So do I want to spend the time that I have left arguing?
Right.
My answer is absolutely
Not.
Not allowed to curse. Is that cursing show?
No.
Absolutely
Not, right.
at all. So my perspective of the things is different, and I will look at things in a particular way. So you have to also be able to see things from each other's eyes.
Right. I agree with that fully. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, because it is, you have a family. Why would you want to just be upset and angry all the time, and you're unhappy in the household, so yeah, let's go kind of rewind a bit. So you said, you know, you guys kind of just, it went in very quickly. And, you know, there's a saying, "See me and come live with me" is two different things. So in the beginning, when you, because Mara, you had that whole different perspective of don't even want to get married and all of these things. And then now you're living with this man. You're about to have a child. What was that like?
Well, it was compounded because we lived with his parents.
Oh boy.
So when we found out that I was pregnant, we were living on our own in a townhouse.
Right.
And, you know, we were struggling because we were so young, and it was my first job. He was just DJing at the time. And so we decided the best thing to do was to move in with his parents.
Okay.
So on top of it being a brand new marriage with a brand new baby, now I'm in my in-laws' home. So that was for 6 years.
Like a culture shock.
No, 3 years. We lived there for 3 years at the beginning.
Right.
And yeah, that was exceptionally challenging.
Wow.
And I would say, I've said this many times before, I said if it wasn't for the type of person he is, I would have been out.
Okay.
I would have been out because it was so challenging for me, truly. With all of that, you know, all of that ingredients in that pot was not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as you said, you were from two completely different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Not something you're used
No.
And so you just had to try to integrate even more now into a different life.
For sure. And then because I had a child so young, and I mean, when I look back at pictures, I truly was a baby, right? And I guess for the adults around, they thought of it that way as well.
Right.
So there was a lot of intervention with the way I was raising my first daughter. And, you know, like what diapers to use, what formula to use.
I think that's every parent. I get
Yeah. And so, again, that was not easy, right? That was not easy. And I was definitely losing my shit.
Right.
A lot. Yeah. You know, and then you have a child. There's a lot of hormones involved as well. So it was not an easy time, you know, and for us to have survived those first 3 years really, I think, built the solid foundation to move forward. Because if we survived that, we could have pretty much gone. Yeah.
I love that.
And I mean, it's
yeah.
We're not guessing and spelling now. We know that that's
You're here. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean,
congratulations on 28 years.
Thank you. I mean, now our eldest is going to be 28 in September.
Right.
And our youngest will be 25 in October. Yeah.
Old enough.
But get that old. Yeah. So, you know, men before and after marriage, because, you know, that's the topic of today. And a lot of times I found in different, because I have lots of friends that are married, and obviously my parents and whatever, and I found that men, they will do everything for the chase, right? And they'll buy all the nice gifts and take you to the nice restaurants and, you know, everywhere, everything that's happening, that's what's happening. And then the minute now, they go, "Oh, will you marry me?" Married now. And then all goes down the drain. So you don't get any more birthday gifts. You don't get any more Christmas gifts. It's just like, well, it's okay. We're married. What else do you need? You have me. You know, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that men just don't feel like, okay, after they've got you now, they don't need to do anything else to maintain?
And they let themselves go.
And they let themselves go. Like, they don't feel like, you know, they still need, your wife still needs to be attracted to you.
Yeah.
It's not just the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, why do you think that is?
I think it has to do with role models. Right? What I mean by that is we are a product of our environment and our exposures.
Right.
So if you grow up in an environment where, you know, everybody around is a priest, for example, then you're going to be naturally inclined to think a particular way.
Right.
If you grow up in an environment where everybody around you is a madman, then have a particular mindset.
Right.
So influences and interactions with others shape our mindset. A lot of the things that we think we need to do is based on what we've been taught to do.
Right.
So, yeah, man, if you want to get her, just, you know, make sure you buy some nice roses and, you know, get a nice ring and make sure that you take her to a good hotel or whatever, because we're kind of taught that way.
Right.
So that happens maybe in the beginning of the chase, because that's what people have said that you need to do.
Right.
And remember, in the chase, there's also two parts. So you also have a recipient.
Right.
So if the recipient is saying, well, where's our birthday gift?
Right.
Why are we not going to a night from parenting? Then you're going to feed into that and do that.
Right.
And perhaps if you don't, then you will win prize. And maybe that changes because after having gotten the prize, so to speak, then you feel that you don't need to do that anymore, you need to move on.
Right.
So there needs to be some rationalization of the before and after, but it comes back to role models. Why I say that is because you act based on how you have seen others act in many instances.
Right.
Right? If your parents are loving and give each other mutual respect, which is a key ingredient, you're more likely
the relationship,
to have mutual respect for each other.
Right.
If you grow up in a household where two parents broke up and then don't talk to each other and there's a bit of drama, it's going to be harder for that person to understand what mutual respect is, and they didn't see it for themselves. Now, I would say that I'm just very lucky because my parents are still together, and my dad has just been the most amazing father ever.
Right.
He wasn't there for me when I played in my cricket finals against KC at Sabina Park.
Right.
And I was really upset about it, maybe to this day. But he couldn't make it because he had said it.
Right.
And I just didn't understand it.
Right. But he told you before. Like,
right, he told me before, and then but he was just there for me in other ways because I knew that if I had a flat tire in the grill, he'd drive from Kingston to come and get me, no issues.
Right.
So I always felt that love and care and being there for me, which I think helped to translate into me being able to be there and be present.
Right.
So I made sure that I was there. Right. My kids, we chatted a bit.
Right.
I will always be there for them until the day that I close my eyes.
Right.
I'm not going to be the type of dad that just shout, big woman, them know that I don't know, wife, all right, and everything good. Let me just do it. That's not me.
And also, too, from the very beginning, he stepped up as our father and our husband.
Right.
So when we had kids young, he could have been like, peace, I'm gone out, I'm gone to the barrage at the time, or, whatever the club was. Right. But that wasn't the case. Like, he stepped into fatherhood and really played a very pivotal role. In fact, I was losing the plot when we had our first daughter because I just was not sleeping. Right. And it happens to most mothers, right? We suffer from a lack of sleep. Yeah. And luckily, he was very hands-on, and he would just take Tori and he would just spend hours pacing up and down with her, and he would get up in the middle of the night and have to deal with her and bring her to me so I could feed her. And, so that was really very important, that respect that he showed both me and his kids. Right. And that was really important. And, yes, it's important to have a role model, but I don't want people who don't have role models to feel discouraged and that they can't get it right. Because they can. It just takes, you have to just know, okay, listen, I did not have a father growing up. I was not raised by my parents. I was raised by my grandmother or my aunt. Right. But I can still do this. Right. You can't
just because your circumstances
are
different.
Yeah, because then we'd be so doomed.
Exactly.
We need people to be able to step into that and change the narrative, and change the whole way that kids are brought up and what, how they are as husband and wife and as mother and father. Right. Very important, yeah.
And you can Tamara is right, but you can look for the guidance and the mentorship in other ways, and the leadership, right? So I coached football when I was 18, right? Prep school football. Right. One of the things that I learned at the time is that young kids see a coach in the same way that they see a parent. So I played a critical role at that age of guiding those people. I wasn't their actual, biological father by any means. but I learned much of what I learned from others who learned before.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a dad.
Right.
But for those that maybe don't have a dad or didn't grow up in a household,
Have someone that you can look up to.
It might just be an older person in the community. It might
Right.
just be a pastor or a businessman or somebody. I have a lot of people that come to me and ask me for mentorship.
Yeah.
On it, to the point that this probably gets a little bit annoying for me, because I just have all these people that they just want guidance.
Right.
Right? And it's really important to them to just have somebody that they can talk
That can
to.
help them steer in the right way, in the right direction.
And that's really important. So when I was 14, driving to school with my dad, get a little bit older, I felt, like I was And I remember asking my dad in the car, I said, Dad, what does it mean to be a man? Like, at what point do you become a man? Or is it, when you get your first girl? Is it when you get your license? Is it when you can drink liquor? Is it when you, grow tall? Like, help me to understand. And my dad looked at me and I said, son, being a man means two things, and two things only. One is knowing what your responsibilities are. The second thing is taking care of it.
Right.
And in that moment, I was like,
wow,
that makes perfect sense. I'm thinking like, it's how much money or how much gal he can get. But he just broke it down.
Right.
At that age, to that impressionable age of 14, having the mentor that he was to give me the right guidance, that set me on a path. So that gave me the mindset of, if I have kids, I know that they are my responsibility.
Right.
And the second part of being a man is taking care of my responsibility.
Right.
So it becomes easier if you just confide it to basic principles and guidelines.
Right. That's so true. Boy, as he said, exactly, more people had you around, or more men had you around, or young boys growing up, young men growing up, just to have a better understanding. And it's because a lot of times they don't know better, as they don't have anyone to look up to or go to.
It's the influence.
Yeah, it's the influence, which is why, they struggle. They struggle in a relationship, and then they bring, whatever it is that they have experienced, whatever trauma they've experienced, and bring it into a relationship, and then, hurt people. And it just becomes a toxic cycle.
And the problem that we have in this culture is leadership. Right? So if it is that our leaders of large organizations, government or whatever, act in a way that sets a tone, how do you then expect the younger kids coming up to act any differently?
Exactly.
And then you turn around and say, boy, they're only like doing this and them can't do this and them whatless. Well, they have whatless leaders. Right? So if we can change that, give people a more positive guidance, tell them the right things at the right ages so that they can absorb it, that will result in a behavioral change where you will see longer lasting marriages and relationships, where you will see better parenting, and then the cycle continues from there, because we want to live in a society where we're happy and people can behave and get along and communicate well and just live a good life.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, I believe that, not saying that women can't be leaders too, but I feel like a man should always be the head of the household, and his wife is the backbone, helping him.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that, to be honest. No, I don't agree with that. Obviously, there is a role for the man to play as general leader, whatever, but I think it has to be balanced, right? There has to be some, because if not, then you're just putting all the responsibility on one place.
True.
And so everything falls on you. You're the leader, so you're responsible for everything. Anything that happens, boy, is not my fault.
When with every leader, you have people who are helping you to...
Correct. It requires a certain level of equity. Right? So different people have different roles. A man's role in the household might be different from the woman's role in the household. Right? But that's where the mutual respect comes back, because you have to also respect that there are different roles.
Exactly. And that her role is just as important as your role.
Absolutely. And her role might be more important in some instances. And she may need to lead on certain things. And sometimes men can't accept that, because they feel that they're being bullied out. No, make your wife lead on a particular issue. There's nothing wrong with that. My mother was a big leader in my household. She ran a lot of things in my household, and it worked.
That's true.
I'm the Minister of Logistics and Planning.
Love that. Love that. Well, they picked up that earlier. I mean, I feel like that's what we're really good at, though, you know. I can speak for myself then and Mara, but yeah,
well,
I'm really good at
but
planning.
Tamara is really good at that. I mean, she's great at a lot of things,
Yeah.
right? But her strength is being able to see things sequentially and logically. That's how our brain works. So we may talk, for example, and I may have an idea, and she gets right to the end of the execution of the idea.
Just, yeah.
Because her mind works naturally that way.
Right.
And so if that's the case, then I can also allow her to take that leadership role when it comes to certain things. I don't have to be right, I'm not right.
Right.
You know, most of the times I'm not.
Yeah, no, most of the time you're not. Well, okay. All right then. Well, guys, this was a really good discussion, you know, and thank you for sharing your, you know, your perspectives and your own personal experiences. And I really hope that, you know, this reaches somewhat this younger generation, because I think, you know, we need that, you know, just in how people think and how they process things. And, you know, and I love the fact that the things that came out of this conversation, which was respect and communication and just having a mutual understanding of each other. And I think if we do that more, if more people were doing that, then we would be much better off. But that's why we're here, to spread the love and advice. But
that's on the show. It's really an excellent platform.
thank you, Zachary.
Great job.
Thank you. I try, you know, work very hard.
You're leading.
I'm leading. I hope you guys heard that. But anyway, thanks for being here, guys. And, you know, this was a really good conversation. So, Tamara, let the viewers know where they can find you on Instagram to show off your wood boss stuff. Just like, I hope you guys are seeing Tamara's bracelet and ring that she made. All right, guys? This is a real wood boss here. Let them know where they can find you.
Instagram is Mara, Mara. Harding. It's a business account, but that's where I am. And my motto is no wood left behind. So when I make a big table and I have a cutoff, I make my jewelry from that.
Nice. And you guys know where to find me at Milan Blair, and it is what it is, JA. See you soon, and don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe to It Is What It Is, JA on YouTube.